Hi, good morning. My name's Andy Polnicki with Pellissippi State Community College, and we have Adam Harris with us from Standard Aero. We're very excited to introduce Standard Aero to you, and Adam's going to spend some time telling you about them and what they do and what type of opportunities you should be considering here in our community. Adam, it's all you.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you, Andy. Yes, good morning. And just to give you a quick overview of what Standard Aero is, we are a maintenance, repair, and overhaul shop, or MRO as it's called in our industry. So what that means is that we are effectively a service industry or service component in the aerospace division or sector. So we do have a commercial sector. We have a military and energy sector, which does mostly Department of Defense contracting type of work. We have a helicopter sector and a component sector. So we do everything from aircraft repair for engines. We do some of the paint work and airframe, which would be the body of the aircraft. We can do interiors at some of our sites as well. And let's see, we've got some ground power unit components as well to be able to provide power, which are also, a turbine type of engine producing that power. So we're pretty large organization. We've faced some difficult times recently, but I have no doubt that we'll rebound strongly. But we're still in the 4,500 to 5,000 employee range as an organization. We have 40 plus sites worldwide. A lot of those are in North America, but we do have them internationally as well. This particular site where I'm sitting at is in Maryville, Tennessee, on 321. We are not on the airport site, but we are certainly close. We have around 300 employees at this site, just under right now. And we do both commercial work and military work as well. And our particular site, we just do maintenance, repair, and overhaul on the actual engines themselves. So we do not do any airframe here. We are a specific propulsion and APU repair shop. So propulsion engine is obviously an engine that hangs on wing and would propel the aircraft. And an APU is an auxiliary power unit, and I equate it to a generator. And so effectively that's on an airplane, and that is a turbine engine as well, and it produces power. So that if you've ever flown in a plane and you're sitting on the runway and you're still getting power and lights and air conditioning and all those comforts, then that's coming from that APU. It can also kickstart an engine as well if needed. So that's a little bit about what we do, high level, of course, and I know we'll get into more of the meat and potatoes here in a bit, but did want to show a quick clip, and this will give an indication kind of organization-wide of what Standard Aero is about and what we do. It's fast-paced, and it's just a couple minutes. So I'm gonna flip to the screen share if that's all right, and hopefully this works.
That sounds awesome.
All right, here we go. Here we go, Andy.
Cessna 635, flighting 130, contact Chicago departure 118.4. Good day.
sharing here, Andy.
Wow. Holy cow, I can't believe I got to follow that.
Yeah, it was a pretty good one there, right?
That's pretty awesome. That's a lot of stuff you guys do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. All right. Well, let's jump into some questions that kind of might help guide some students towards you all. I'm just going to jump in if you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. Fire
Great.
away.
Great. Describe to our viewers your career. How did you get to where you are at Standard Aero, and what led you there?
Certainly. So my position in the organization is the human resources manager. So I began my career actually in human resources, I guess we'll say probably at the college level as well. So some of your viewers are pursuing degrees and figuring out what they want to do. And so I went that route while I was in University of South Alabama, where I graduated from, in Mobile, Alabama, where I'm from, and ran into a very influential professor in the business side that I guess encouraged me and provided a lot of background. Like yourself, I know you've worked in the industry side of things and not all academia, and the same for this professor. So they got me interested in the management side, the human resources side, and so got my degree there, and actually worked in the financial world straight out of college, and that led me to an opportunity to move to Knoxville with my wife 15 years ago, and ended up working for, strangely enough, the healthcare industry in human resources, and sort of cut my teeth there. And that actually helped me a great deal to have some of that financial experience for working for Wells Fargo prior. And so the combination of those two things, between the degree and the experience I had in the financial world, to gain a position in healthcare here locally. So worked there for 15 years in a variety of positions. And ultimately that led to an opportunity here about 3 years ago, where I was able to come and be the manager of this site. And so what interested me about it was aviation and aerospace is a fast-paced, ever-changing sector, and it was new to me, and I enjoy learning different facets of business, and this was something that obviously is very different from healthcare, so it was a good challenge and intrigued me. So the skill set that I had between the business side and of course the HR side for 15 years, and everything from a compensation capacity to employee relations manager to a director of several sites, it fit well, and was fortunate enough to begin working here, like I said, about 3 years ago. And since then, we've had a pretty interesting journey with a lot of growth, and then here recently faced some pretty significant challenges with the pandemic.
Oh, I imagine. Hopefully we'll all be through this very shortly.
Yes, I'm with you. I got my fingers crossed.
So the next question, we might want to look at a couple different levels. So let's specifically start with high school students. Are there job and career opportunities for anyone that might be graduating right out of high school?
Yeah, there are. So in particular, I've had some involvement with some of the local high schools, and I realized, now I won't be able to name them specifically, but there are a few that are working through programs with Snap-on and some other tool manufacturers, where they actually, students are coming out with certificates on how to use precision measurement tools and torque wrenches. Those are very common tools of the craft and the trades that we have here, and those would be very, very valuable. So absolutely, particularly for those that have some of those hands-on skills. You don't have to be a licensed A&P mechanic to work here as a mechanic, as an example. Having good hands-on skill would be certainly important, but being someone that's very dedicated and is very much quality focused, paying attention to detail, those kind of factors can go a long way as well, and we can train folks also. So we do have a mix of those that have aerospace and aviation background. Military background is huge, and we have a number of folks that are veterans that work here, and that has been a great gateway as well. But it is not necessary for someone to have necessarily any experience prior to them starting here. And we do have a handful of positions that could be more entry level, and would be a great way to start in the organization and in a career, whether it be in the materials world, where we do have a lot of parts coming in out of the shop, the shipping and receiving area, bench techs, and we can talk a bit more about those skills as we go along, I'm certain, but those are all positions that could be obtained with limited experience, but certainly the right personality, and maybe some of these certificates and things are available through these trade programs now, which are great. So those are a great option.
So you mentioned A&P certification. What is that?
So it is an FAA regulated license that validates your expertise in the A and P side, which stands for, the A stands for airframe and the P stands for power plant. So you can have them both, you can have them individually, and there's a general that I didn't mention as well. So you're always going to have the general, and then there's either an A and or a P. At this particular shop, an A is certainly a nice thing to have, but it's not really necessary since we don't do airframe work here. The P, however, could certainly be very valuable. Not necessary for most of the positions. There are a handful of positions in our shop, inspectors, management, certain positions they're signing off on work for making it airworthy. Those do require a P because we do have to have some validation there, but there are a number of positions here that do not require that. That being said, it is a great way to get your expertise validated in the field, and it's a pretty good bang for your buck way to begin a career if you have interest in it, because you can achieve that at some of the local colleges, and I know there's some partnership things being discussed, I even believe with Pellissippi and the local airport, but they can be done in 18 months, and really it's a great way to get into industry.
So we talked about career opportunities for high school students. How about career opportunities for college students?
Absolutely.
So maybe we just start with the TCATs and the community colleges.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we do have some positions that would require both 2-year and 4-year degrees. And those could be, say, for example, in the engineering world, we do have a fair-sized engineering group here. We do have associate degree engineers as well as 4-year degree engineers, and we have some that have been mechanics here and have worked their way up to gain that hands-on expertise, and then went into the engineering field as well to be able to apply that in a slightly different way. So yeah, we have opportunities there in the business world as well. So we do have customer service folks. The name is a little bit tricky because a lot of our customer service folks, while they do deal customer facing with customers in some capacities, they're also very heavily involved with technical knowledge, piece parts and such, where having that experience and ability to try to train in the shop would help. But those can partner well with someone that might be coming out of Pellissippi, for example, and coming out with a degree in business or expertise in the Microsoft product world would be huge. People that are very good at Excel and access databases and things like that can go very far in the organization, because we do pull a lot of data. Everything is documented. All those parts are assigned a number of SKUs so we can track them, and yeah, so those are great assets. So you could certainly have many opportunities with those degrees, and be a great opportunity.
Can you remember if there's a higher demand degree or training that you're always looking for?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, I think really, particularly for those that are coming in a support role, having a very high aptitude and skill set within the Microsoft world would be huge, because we do pull a ton of data, and a lot of the things that we do are very procedural, very scripted. There has to be certain information that's sent back to the customer. Therefore, those things would be very valuable. Engineering, sometimes it depends, right? Like from a recruiting perspective, there are times where those are easier positions to find, and there are times where they're more difficult to find. One particularly challenging area that we have to recruit, and I don't know, it's not a very common thing that you see degreed, but you could probably partner it with a degree that you could achieve from a Pellissippi as an example, but NDTs, which are non-destructive testers, or non-destructive testing. They would test metals with different technologies, whether it be, there's a penetrant dye, I couldn't come up with the words, using penetrant dye testing. There's some X-ray type of technology that we use. There's some electric current, eddy current technology that we use. Those are very difficult trades to learn. You have to take a lot of hours in them. but having an expertise and a base and then achieving that additional along with it could be very valuable. And those are very difficult positions to find. We do have a need for them here. And sometimes they have, well, pretty much every time I should say, they have presented a challenge to recruit. So that could be a very good area to partner with some of the skills that you gain in that degree program that you choose.
What are the top 2 or 3 positions you're always looking for?
Yeah, that's a good one, Andy. So for certain mechanics, we would generically refer to our team that is hands-on as technicians. So our technicians are very quality-focused individuals in all cases, but in terms of specific positions, definitely mechanics, machinists. Those would be another trade that are very in high demand, and the precision that is needed is, particularly in the aerospace world, is sometimes difficult to find. So that's another valuable one. And then I'd say there's quite a few that kind of fall into that third category. But I would think that some of the support roles, so you've got a crew of people that have to support those technicians that are doing hands-on roles. So those might be a varied group, but everything from materials to the business side. So the customer service, the AFAs, which basically are customer service, but on the military side, so they do very detailed work. So you can achieve some of those degrees, I believe, through the Pellissippi world as well, but those would be a great thing as well. So you do have to have a good mix of support in addition to those technicians. So I think those would probably be the most 3 commonly recruited in our.
If you focus on those top 2 or 3 roles that you're always looking to fill, what would a entry-level technician be looking at an hour? Most of them may or may not have any, mechanic background training other than what they've learned at high school and college. So what could somebody in that role expect to start?
Sure. So I'll kind of hit the range of those 2 or 3 like you asked. So if you're coming in as someone who is, say, working in the shipping, receiving parts, the material side, we'll call it, $15 to $17 an hour is probably a fair starting point. In terms of the machinist, you're probably looking at somewhere from an hourly range of $22 to $25 an hour. And then in terms of the mechanics, the technicians are hands-on with the engines in terms of disassembly, assembly. Those are going to be more in the mid-20 range as well. So, 22 to 26.
I may need to update my resume.
Yeah, no, it's a great career. And there's been a lot of articles, just not to get too far down the weeds in this, but there's been a lot of articles in the aviation world leading up to the pandemic, of course, that there is a continued shortage of technicians in the aerospace world because you've got some big markets that are looking for folks always. And we fall into that category in terms of looking for folks, not necessarily a big market, mind you, but those are very well-paying jobs. And there is a great opportunity. And there's an aging workforce in the aerospace world. And there could be a great opportunity for folks who are interested to step in and really learn from that group as they're finishing their careers, and have some great opportunity for going forward as well.
Okay. Kind of stepping away from those technical hard skills, what sort of personal soft skills and personal characteristics are you looking for employees to succeed in your company?
Yeah, great question. And those are equally as important as the hard skills, very honestly, and maybe more so. Folks that are reliable, dependable, have great teamwork experience and are willing to work as a team. Great attitude, somebody who is both reliable and in terms of attendance, are there timely and are ready to give 100% while they're there. We have, like I mentioned before, I believe, a high concentration of veterans here. So like I mentioned before, teamwork is huge. That veteran background has a high expectation of that, and that's super. I think as well, communication. It can be a struggle sometimes because the world we live in has changed, and communication is very different than it was. And it is important to have good communication skills, whether it be a virtual scenario like we're in, or a phone call, but it's also very important to have good communication skills and directly relatable experience in that world when you're talking with people in a one-on-one setting and meeting with people and conflict resolution and things like that. Those are hugely important. So I would say those are the soft skills that make somebody successful here.
Okay. When you have your pool developed, you've got a pretty good sized workforce as it is, how do you develop talent within your company? How do you do lifelong training and development of those people that are part of your team?
Yeah, no, good question. So we have a quality component to our organization here and a quality team that focuses on what we call TDPs, or training development plans. And those are going to range depending on what the level of skill that the person enters the organization with, but they're going to be adapted to that. So there's always going to be some level of training, and up to 6 months for any new employee, whether they have experience in aviation or not, because the way that we do things is going to be different than other organizations. So we plan on a pretty straightforward 6 months for anybody, regardless of experience, to train. So for us, it does take some time for somebody to be, hands-on and more autonomous. And that's not a bad thing, because you're going to have people that you're training with and you're learning with, and they're watching and helping and passing on those skills. But it does take some time. And that's because the end result is so important. You can't pull an airplane over at 30,000 feet. We've got to do it right every time, and we've got to be sure it's right. And so that training is huge. So it starts, like I said, for the first 6 months, and it continues. So we're going to have a TDP to develop somebody that might come in with entry-level skills, and how do they get to their OA stamp, which allows them to basically sign off on some level of work. And then maybe it's, okay, now I'm a mechanic 2. I want to move to mechanic 3. So what's it going to take for me to do that? Well, maybe it's I'm an expert in these areas. I take on these additional skills, and now maybe I'm a trainer. And what's it take for me to get from a 3 to a 4 level? So Standard Aero has done a very good job with career path in all positions. So technicians and support included, there's multiple levels. So there's kind of a constant focus on training and developing. And so you can always go back to that TDP, and you can find with your manager and with that quality team or whoever it is that you're rolling up to in that respect to help you get to that next level. So it is definitely an aviation is definitely a space where you're constantly learning. It's constantly evolving and changing. And so we try to make sure that our training development plans fit that as well.
Okay. It's funny. It's too bad there aren't any breakdown lanes for airplanes.
Right, exactly. There is no breakdown lanes. It's got to do it right, do it right the first time. Quality is absolutely the most important thing, and integrity, quality integrity, because our individuals that work here on the team in every respect have to have high integrity, because if you sign off that you did it and the person behind you signs off that they saw you do it, then it needs to be done right, because again,
there's no breakdown lane. Yeah.
No breakdown lane.
Yeah. So let's talk about apprenticeships, internships, work-based learning, whatever term you're most comfortable with.
Sure.
At the various levels of your organization, and there are opportunities for high school students that are over 16 years old. There are opportunities for college students, some paid, some unpaid. What do you all do?
Yeah, so in terms of the high school opportunities, we've had some discussion with local high schools about looking into a program that would fit that need. Thus far, we have not been a participant, at least since my tenure here. It is something that we do wish to look into further. I think it could provide some opportunity. But as of now, in the recent history anyways, we have not participated at that level. In terms of the college level, we have provided some internships. We've had a few where people have been in an A&P program, and we are actively able to have them work a modified shift, we'll call it part-time, and they are getting paid while doing that, while achieving their degree, or their license, I should say. And those have been few and far between, because you have to have the capacity to handle that, but we do certainly have targeted needs there, and we have done that. We have done collegiate level engineering internships, and traditionally we have 2 at any given time on site, and those are paid as well. So we try to have those year round. I know a lot of organizations try to stick to summer interns. We actually take a different approach, and we find that the more that intern can be here and participate, the better it is for them, not only from an experience perspective, whether they decide to work with us or there's an opportunity to work with us or not, but wherever they go, because they truly become like an engineer when they're here. That's how we describe it. When people ask, how do you describe that internship? We tell them, it is like you're an engineer. You're going to be expected by the engineering managers to take engines, to walk them from arrival. Now, this is, of course, once you've been trained, and it's not a throw you to the wolves kind of thing, but you would get to that point. And so therefore we have people work year round, and we try to get them in multiple days so they can see the process and be a part of the process and development. So they're working side by side with the technicians and their peers in the engineering world, so that they can get to the point where they are a functioning part-time service engineer or repair and development engineer, or whatever it is specifically that they're targeting. So yeah, we try to have 2 of those at any given time on site, and it's great. And we've hired a number of those engineer interns as well. When we've had opportunities, we've absolutely taken advantage of it. So it's a great place and a great opportunity to prove yourself when you're given that chance.
Okay. Okay. One of the things that I think people of my generation did a poor job at was achieving work-life balance. We never really thought about life. We were all too busy working to death. Thinking about that work-life balance, I'd like to ask a few questions about that part of business that supports your team having that balance of life. How does your company, kind of approach the time off or flex time or anything associated with those types of benefits that help kind of promote a healthier lifestyle?
Yeah, no, fair. It is a tough balance. And so I'll start by saying that, this is a space that can be very demanding at times, because if you got an aircraft on the ground and you got an engine that you've got to repair and get back, or if the military is making a push to get some of these engines back on their Osprey, their V-22 Osprey, or whatever aircraft it is that they're trying to outfit, that can be difficult to manage. But all that being said, of course, we have a strong PTO program and holidays. We have 8 paid holidays here. PTO starts off earning very highly here, and you can use PTO as soon as you earn it. There's no wait period to access it. We focus our time when we have those holidays on trying to provide a few extra days around the Thanksgiving time frame and the Christmas time frame, which are very much focused on family generally during those times. So we're very flexible when people wish to use their individual time off. We have had occasions where we've worked with individuals that have, of course, unique situations and needs. So we try to be flexible that way and understanding. We do a lot of celebratory type things, and while this may not be time off per se, I think it does recharge the batteries. So the organization has very much focused on when we hit levels of achievement, the shop does something special. We have an anniversary of some sort, whether it be for the 10,000th engine or the first engine of a new product line or whatever it may be. We eat well around here. So we routinely have, of course, the pandemic has changed things a little bit, mind you, so I'm speaking of more regular times, but we have large events. We have a company picnic here on site, which, is very fun, very, focused on basically those folks that are hard working in the shop, all of us step out together and have a cornhole tournament. We have poker tournaments, and we eat Calhoun's barbecue, and we have a huge Christmas party that families are invited to. We have a kids' Christmas party that we have for the children of the team here. Those of us that have kids, and we have the opportunity to celebrate together, and a big Thanksgiving meal, and we give turkeys to our employees oftentimes. And so there's things that we do along those lines that are, I feel like, in that vein. And it is a work-life balance, because you have to understand we're all working hard. So when we have that opportunity to celebrate, you need to step back and do that. And so we take that time off, and we take those days off, and we have those spaces carved out for meals together and events together. And we have an events committee that focuses on those things. And so we do those year round. We usually do one big event in the spring. A lot of our folks here are car folks. I know you mentioned yourself being in the car industry in the past. So we've got a lot of folks because aviation, for whatever reason, people like speed, it seems. And so you've got fast cars and antique cars here. And so we've got a big contingent of folks that love to bring those in. So we'll have a day where we have people bring in their hot rods and, we'll barbecue out back and everybody hangs out and looks at the cars and talks cars and stuff. So yeah, we try to do those sort of things and it creates a family atmosphere as well, a work family, I should say. And I think that brings us all closer and focuses on the same goal and mission. And that's a good time for sure.
That sounds great. Well, you've answered a bunch of my work-life balance questions all in one. That's great.
There you go. We'll take it.
Are there any activities that your company's involved in that support the local community, that work with organizations in the local community?
Yeah, so we do, of course, annual fundraising with United Way. We do what we call team building days. And so all of our departments, we actually refer to them as cells. We have various cells throughout the shop here, and they're kind of experts in one area of that engine typically. And I won't get into that specific component of it right now, but mind you, there are pieces, in groups throughout the shop. So those teams will step out in addition to the days that I mentioned to you that we do as an organization or as a shop. They step out and do gatherings once a quarter, whether it be a meal, whether it be, they tour this or gone for a hike or whatever. So they'll do team building. And those team buildings have been for organizations such as Habitat for Humanity, and other organizations that do a lot of great things for the community here. So we partner that way. In years past, we've done, and we haven't done it this year because of, again, the circumstances being a bit unique, but we participated in some of the Rib Fest. I know the Loudon Rib Fest is one that we have. Our chief inspector is a big barbecue guy, and he's gone out and competed in that, and we've sponsored it and had participants and showed up and supported Tim. And so we do things like that when they're available, and those things generally support charitable organizations as well. So yeah, we try to do and be involved in the community as much as we can in that respect. And we do sponsor a lot of our teammates here, they have children that might go to a local high school or local intermediate school or what have you. And we'll often end up sponsoring softball teams and basketball teams and, community things that are great for our families and the kids that, are a part of our extended work family. So yeah, we try to be involved in all of those things.
That is really great. I'm going to switch back towards a little bit more of the technical side. And this is about, where do you see the future of technology, your team members over the next 10 years? What skills might they need? What do you see changing in your industry over the next 10 years?
Well, that's a bit hard to predict at this point in time, but I would think from an aviation perspective that there's going to continue to be, focus and opportunities on autonomous things, kind of like you see in the car industry. So we already do one engine that flies on a drone, the Global Hawk. And so that 3007 engine is typically a commercial engine, but it is used in a military capacity for that. So that is not something that's being flown by a person that is on the aircraft, but rather remotely. So I could see that being more of a long-term transition. I don't know how that changes what we do per se, because the engine still needs to be monitored, but maybe that engine becomes more like a car and there's chips or plugs, versus, a big block Chevy from the 60s or 70s or whatever. You can step inside between the engine and the car frame. But nowadays cars are so much more computer driven and controlled. So there's possibly going to be more opportunities that way and more technology driven in that direction. So I would think skills that are related to the IT side and the computer side, no matter what your position is, and this is a good time to add this part in. I didn't really talk to it earlier, but while our technicians are very hands-on with the engines, they absolutely have to be very skilled with the computer as well, because you're not going to touch an engine or torque a wrench or do anything without referencing the manual. And that manual is online. There's not a 1,000-page book laying next to you. It is on the computer. And you're logging those things and signing off on them electronically. So computer skills will continue to be, regardless of whether the technology goes the way I referenced prior or not, technology will always continue, I think, to be more of a focus in every industry, and ours is no different. So that would be where I would think it's going to change. And I'd like to hope that we do these virtual things, I realize, for the right reasons now, but we are all back to traveling and doing things face-to-face in the future when that is allowable. And I'm hopeful that our industry will see a big boom from that, both within domestic and international travel. And we're supporting our military, so I'm sure we'll continue
Absolutely.
to on that as well.
Awesome. Awesome. One last question. Why should a young person consider your company for employment?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the industry is an exciting place to work. I think that there will always be a need for aerospace and aviation, even as it pertains to human travel, which is limited right now. People are shipping things more than ever now. So you've got the Amazons and the FedExes and the UPSs flying packages and things all over. You've got the military, which will always be a part of the world, the United States, protecting our freedoms. And so I think that's something that's exciting and fun to be a part of, and proud. I think we're proud to be a part of that, to support our military. So I think that's another good reason too. You have a mission and a focus. So, I think it's an honorable thing and something that, gives you purpose. It provides a great career opportunity. So aviation, as I mentioned, is here to stay. And I think it's only going to grow, and having an opportunity to start a career and stay in that career, and it affords you opportunities to move around. As I mentioned, Standard Aero's got 40 plus locations worldwide. So if you'd like to see other parts of the world, and there's other opportunities, moving around within the organization is a good opportunity. The skills you learn here are very transferable. So, somebody can get a lot of great experience if they wish to move somewhere else that we don't have a site at. They would still gain valuable experience and skills from working here. So, yeah, I think all those things would make us a very appealing place to work. And we have a great group of people here. And I think it's a very good work family, so to speak. And so, it is a fun place to work. And again, all the purpose that I mentioned, it's exciting. So those would be the positives, I would say.
Well, Adam, this has been a great interview. I've enjoyed learning all of this about Standard Aero. It's really an amazing company.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity to do so.
No, absolutely. I hope we get to meet again soon.
Absolutely. Me as well.
All right. Well, Adam, I'm going to let you go in a second, but thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.